comments, Julie? Oh, I was told it's me, so you can go first. Sorry, let me go ahead and go.
I got a 10 o'clock Zoom meeting I gotta be home for with legislative review stuff, so.
Go ahead.
We really don't have much to report other than the courthouse is back fully staffed. All the workers should be back as required. They're still working on appointment only. And we anticipate that we have a meeting tomorrow with the department heads. We anticipate that going on one more week yet. We're doing the staggered entrances and then the staggered into days. That's not really being followed as it should be. We'll talk about that tomorrow. We looked at doing the temperature things. They were taking temperatures today. I'm not sure how that's going to work. The difficulty is getting an accurate forehead, non-touch temperature when somebody just comes in outside in. So Liddy's working on that. I think Julie and Chris are working on that to find some good way to do that. So we'll get that worked out as well. Other than that, I think everything is going as it was. It's just we've got a plan that we're going to propose to the commissioners Monday, and it has a phased-in process following the state and Fed guidelines as to how to do it as safely as we can. Hopefully within about another 3 or 4 weeks we'll get back to normal operations, other than deciding for sure how we're going to do the entrance into the courthouse.
Okay.
Any questions for us?
Questions?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Christine?
We've got our office staffed again. Also, we have kept the doors locked though, with just a sign on there to say call with what you need. We meet them at the door instead of having a lot of foot traffic. So, but somebody is there every day now. Kind of an update on what we've been doing since we aren't able to have face-to-face till the end of June. That's kind of shifted everything we did to online. Gail's been doing some program with Child Adult Resource Center, nutrition and cooking classes. She actually finished her Captain Cash with the 4th graders online. So all the students got online and she was able to finish that program.
Wesley participated in that. He enjoyed it. Yeah, he thought that was great fun.
She's also been doing a walking program. Kurt's been doing some home gardening videos.
I never realized that the Fair Board had any direction given to them by Purdue Woodall. I didn't realize that connection. Is there a benefit for the Fair Board to have that connection, as some counties have a fair association rather than a fair board that's directed by the?
They are all technically volunteers, so they're covered in insurance and any activities they do with the fair. The Purdue covers with them with injury or anything like that.
Any financial assistance from Purdue to do that, or any reason to do that?
Not that I know.
I'll just, I've never heard that before. I thought the Fair Board was a county entity, and I didn't realize it was a Purdue entity.
I think it used to be years ago.
That's why I always understood it was, yeah. Okay, so look into it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, we'll start with however you and Chris want to handle the report on the COVID response, or it's up to you guys,
I'll
whatever.
do my report and then he can do his. We kind of do everything together, so
No, that's
mine
fine.
You can
laps
do
into
it
his and his
however you
laps into
wanna
mine.
do it However you want to do it.
So I'll do my initial call reports and things, and then we'll probably just overlap each other. And so we haven't had a meeting for a while, so I just went clear back to January 1st. Since January 1st, we've done 416, we've had 416 responses. 75 of those were in April. That's down from last year by about 20 responses, just for that month. 26 were COVID positive screens that we've been on. We did 9 in March, 12 in April, 5 so far in May. So the numbers are climbing, but it's just very, very slight for us. It's not something where we're seeing a huge surge by any means. Collections so far in 2020, we've done $185,554.30 in revenue collections. We're ahead of last year by $16,466. We did get a stimulus payment from the CARES Act. We found out that we might potentially get a second one. I went online and entered all of our information, and I don't think that we qualify. Essentially, you have to show that your revenue's been affected greatly to get the second one. So we got that $14,460, and what that money does is that covers any revenue loss from Medicare or Medicaid patients that we transport that are COVID positive or a potential COVID patient, because we're not allowed to bill them. So that money covers anything that we would bill them, and it also covers any of our supplies, PPE, and things that we might need to restock since we've used so much of it. The only thing with that, we just had to sign that we agreed not to bill Medicare and Medicaid patients, because they essentially gave us a lump sum up front and said, here's your money, don't bother us unless you go through that and need more. So that was pretty easy. I did submit our Rule EMS training grant I talked to you guys about. It was a $200,000 no-match grant. Had to be used for a training facility to update education on EMS. The total amount we applied for was $199,998.98. I got it as close as I possibly could. So a lot of the things that we did were the hybrid portion for, as far as the electronics, to get our room set up so that we could do online training, and then 5 people that work for me currently wanted to attend or are interested in attending a paramedic class, so it would pay 100% for that, plus the training supplies and all of the things that we need to start our training institution up. It includes like a room divider. We put that in to kind of close off that training room that we have from the rest of the building so that we're not interfering with each other, and a lot of really nice supplies that I think we're kind of building a program together with Vermilion County for a medic institution, so that'll be through St. Mary of the Woods. So I think it's going to be very beneficial for our county as far as retention of employees. The COVID stuff. So the test numbers from the reports that I'm getting are increasing locally. VPCHC has 1 machine. They're getting ready to get a second machine that are the Abbott point of care tests. They are utilizing the swabs with that. It's not a finger stick, and it's not checking for antibodies. It's only checking for active infection. So right now, their only machine is at Clinton. They're getting another one. It'll come to Rockville. And their test numbers have been up over the last week significantly, they said. I tried to talk to Melissa this morning, but their power's out, so their phones aren't working to get a more accurate update. Currently, we have 6 positive cases that are active right now. We have 12 people that were positive that have recovered. If you do the math, that's 18 cases. There's only 16 being reported by the state. That's because there's 2 more that we know are coming out today. They might not actually hit the state's website until tomorrow, though. It just depends on how they're tested and where and all that stuff, how long it takes them. But we are getting accurate information almost every 4 hours throughout the day. So we are being updated through the health department, the ambulance service, the EOC, almost every 4 hours about cases. 6 of our recovered patients were just clinical cases, so they've started tracking those now, and those are ones that either didn't qualify for a test, didn't have a test, or tested, but the test was, they believe, falsely positive or falsely negative. So they are still considering those clinical, and the health department still tracks those the same as far as the contact tracing. So we have a huge list of people that they are talking to every day right now to track their close contacts. 5 of our patients have been hospitalized that were confirmed positive. 1 of them was in the ICU. None of our patients have been ventilated yet, and almost all have been released and are recovered right now that were hospitalized. So currently, of our list that we have, we've only got 6 people that we're tracking. Everybody else is recovered. The ambulance service is piloting a program with VPCHC and Union Clinton for a virtual care at home program. It's essentially a hospital program where people can be hospitalized at their own home instead of having to be in a hospital for those that are high risk or those that are positive but maybe not moderate. They're a mild case. We're actually keeping track of them at home for the 2 weeks that they're on quarantine and following up with them. They receive a home care kit. It's all paid for by the state. The program was put in place by the state as a pilot. So they get like a blood pressure cuff, an SpO2, which checks their the amount of oxygen in their blood, and a thermometer. And we're just following up with them daily, trying not to actually make physical contact. We're trying to do the biggest part of it virtually, but we actually have had to go make physical contact with 2 of those patients and transport them now. We did find out, it's been a couple of months ago, I think in March, I believe I called Roy, and we knew that there was going to be a shortage of supplies coming down the line. So if you look at our supply line right now, it looks low for where we normally are this time of year. That's because we found out the hard way, and we found out very quickly something that I think most of us know. Parke County is a small county. It's not small, but our population is low, and we're not usually on anybody's priority list. That's just kind of how it goes here. So when it comes to getting PPE and supplies and things, we're usually last on the list because our population's low. We don't have, a real dense population. So we knew that we were going to have some issues if we had back orders on supplies. And one of the big back orders that we have or saw coming were breathing treatments, IV supplies, things that people in our county need because our transport times are 40 to 50 minutes sometimes, and you can't transport somebody with significant shortness of breath and not offer them any treatment. So what we did when we found out that that was coming down the pipe and we knew we wouldn't get help is we ordered a year's worth of supplies to have them. So we have a year's worth of all of our oxygen supplies, our nebulizer supplies, our IV supplies. We stockpiled all of it. We put it in the room. We'll go through it, so I'm not worried about it expiring just based on our previous years. So our supply line looks low, but that's only because we were projecting our usage and we bought it up to make sure that we didn't get caught up in that back order thing. We did get report a little bit of the state random testing that they did. The week before last, I think they started on Wednesday, ended on Saturday. They randomly tested 5,000 people. They were working in conjunction with Fairbanks, one of the IU hospitals. So they found out that 3% of Hoosiers either are currently infected or have been affected, but the biggest majority of them were asymptomatic. So they summarized that there's 11 times more infections in Indiana than what they've tracked because they've been asymptomatic infections. That dropped our death rate to 0.6%, which is a good thing, but it is still 6 times more lethal than the flu and 3 times more infectious than the flu. About 44.8% of the infections in Indiana are asymptomatic, which means that they believe there's been a total of about 186,000 cases rather than the 25,000 that you see that are positive tests. So that's what I have, and Chris, you can take it from there.
The Rockville Center, can anyone get tested or must they be referred by a doctor?
No. So the one in Rockville, there's no prescription required. You only have to either call the 800 number or go online and register. If you do not fall in a high-risk category, they do want you to be symptomatic. But if you fall in a high-risk category, you're a healthcare worker, you're over 65, you work in an institution such as a prison or an adult resource facility or something like that, then you get tested, no questions asked, free charge. Mhm.
So first I was going to talk about PPE and how it gets funded. Right now, the county's doing really well for PPE, and that was really because Amy, years ago, had bought a lot of stuff and put it in a trailer. So we've been able to use that stuff. We've also been able to make some purchases. We've been lucky. The sheriff's been able to work through his network of other sheriffs to get stuff at good prices. And Heather's been able to find a lot of stuff on the internet. So we see ourselves doing pretty good on PPE. The appropriations that are there now are, and I can go over the numbers if you'd like. We should be good up until your next meeting, and I think we'll have a request at that meeting probably for about $9,000 worth of equipment. It's going to primarily be suits, but right now we're good until probably the middle of June for suits and masks and everything else. We've got a couple of items that we haven't purchased that we've kind of allotted money against, and one of those is a UV sanitizer to keep us so we can keep using the masks. Those run about $200 to $300. We just can't find a quality one on that can get delivered here soon. When it comes to grants, we're looking at the FEMA program, which is the Public Assistance Program, which will reimburse up to 75% of the cost for what they call Category B items, which PPE and most of the stuff that we've spent on the COVID-19 response. We're tracking that stuff, and we're trying to figure out how to apply for it. The state doesn't exactly have a good plan yet, and nor does the federal government, because they're not really set for this, but we're tracking that, and we're making sure we're going to be able to get as much money from that program as we can. The other thing, another grant came down, which was the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute grant, which is over $37,000 to use to support law enforcement. And I'm going to work with the sheriff and the judge and some of the other law enforcement entities to see what we need, and then to use that grant money to keep funding our response. The testing site we had open, it opened on Wednesday. It's a state program. They needed help with assistance in finding a place to do it. And right now the town of Rockville has done most of the work on that. The county shouldn't incur any expense for having that site open, and if they do, we're going to ask the state to reimburse us. They don't have a plan, and they acknowledge that they don't have a reimbursement plan on that. And then finally, dispatch is running well. Our numbers are a little bit below average because people haven't been out at the campsites or anything like that. So the calls are running a little bit lower, but we haven't had any problems with dispatch. Our alternate dispatch is running about 90% capacity. We're having some technical difficulties in getting the IDAX, which is the state criminal database system, running up there. We do have a backup plan, but it's not as good as if we would just get it running up there.
Okay. Sheriff?
Of course, we've been running 24/7. We did limit some of our services, which a lot of it was businesses we could do online. Some of the stuff like title checks, B&B was closed. We didn't cut those out. We're starting to do them again. Our jail is basically 50% capacity right now, which is what we were trying to shoot for anyway. In case we had some cases in there, we could make some kind of quarantine areas or medical areas, segregation. We do still have 5 Department of Correction inmates. The state prisons have a pretty large infection rate. They're asking if we don't send state prisoners back to them, but if we want to, they will take them. So we've had 5 of them, then we have 2 Fountain County inmates. So far for the year, we've billed $87,265 to DOC and Fountain County. We're averaging $17,453, so we're still higher than all the way back to 2014. We've generated $27,747.67, and the other fees that we collect. We still kept doing gun permits throughout this, and that's kind of been one of the bigger things. Everybody 24/7. We did limit some of the people coming into the building. We kind of average anywhere from 70 to 100 people a day in the building, and out, inmates, public employees, whatever. We do our own sanitizing at the jail, disinfecting. Jail staff's been wearing masks for 5 weeks. We do test jail staff, new inmates coming in. We work with the judge on misdemeanor arrests, basically writing a ticket, getting them coordinated, seeing that we're taking all felonies. There's some required misdemeanor arrests, like DUIs, batteries, that you're required to take in. But yeah, so far nobody's been infected, sick, tested positive, anything. We did have one deputy in quarantine for basically 2 days, but the person he's been in contact with had a negative test, so he got out of quarantine pretty quick, didn't miss any work. Our big jail project from SAS, which is the automated computer system for the security, touchscreen, doors, intercoms, cameras, they completed that basically yesterday. They're still there today just to make sure that there's no bugs. I think they're doing some door sensor adjustments on 1 or 2 doors, but it's so far working great, and I don't expect any trouble. They said our old system should have went down 10 years ago, so, and it survived, but, so that's done. We did pick up our 2 brand new Tahoes. I think we got those about 3 weeks ago. That's what we paid for out of commissary. Basically, they were $35,000 a piece, so we got those. So traded in 3 vehicles that were pretty old. Saved us a little bit of money. And I think that's it. He hit on that grant, so I believe that's all I have.
Okay, well, I certainly want to thank the 3 of you for all that you've done and are doing. I mean, I'm sure our Parke County residents and people appreciate what you're doing, and there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that people don't realize what goes on and what plans we have to make, or you have to make in advance, and plan for the worst, hope for the best. I appreciate the updates that Chris and you all have been sending. I mean, that's helpful, because we're asking when we're out constantly, well, what's happening in the county and that sort of thing, so it's always nice if we can be able to answer those questions and say, well, you know, I got the update the other day. I've even just read the update and talked to a few people, just say, well, that's what I know, and that way there's less miscommunication. People hear so many things, and social media's.
Facebook's blown up with stuff that's inaccurate, or it's opinions instead of facts, and it's really hard to negate that sometimes.
It is. If you've seen it on Facebook, well, everybody's sure that it's true.
Mhm.
Most of the time, it's not.
I think that's the hardest part of our job, is we do so much to make sure that we're using true data and true facts, and then somebody comes to us with the stuff they've seen on Facebook and trying to, we can't give away a lot of our information because it's private, it's protected, it's public, or it's health information about people, and so you try to negate that the best you can without giving away private, protected information. It's not always easy.
We've been very fortunate we had you 3.
The citizens of this county should
Very
be
fortunate.
absolutely, they're very fortunate to have leadership of the 3 of you through this situation. You've gone well above and beyond for the community to ensure the safety of all the citizens of this county to the best extent you possibly could. There are plenty of people out there that think that there wasn't preparation, that nobody was ready or prepared or doing anything for this, and that's absolutely false. There was preparation to the extent that could be, and the reaction of the 3 of you has been exemplary to deal with this. Absolutely exemplary. You all are, you're owed a significant debt of gratitude by all of us.
Thank you.
I have one question, Julie, on your report, just because we've worked on this a little bit. Regarding the stimulus payment, did the proof that we worked on last week work for them? Is that gotten settled?
Yeah, they accepted it, but I've not heard back. I just got one message back from them that stated that it had been accepted. So I haven't heard back, and they said it's usually about 10 days before you hear, 10 working days, so it'll be next week.
Good. And the auditor, the fund has been created for the Board of Accounts guidelines.
plans are for next week is to start grinding 2 roads that we're gonna tear up and repave and finish up our hot mix paving project on the preparation for it. If you get that done, got ready. We should be ready to move on.
When do you think that so we have the contract for the contract paving, any idea when the start time would be
I
for
looked at
that?
it fairly quick.
Oh, you think it will be
Yeah.
fairly quick?
Because he called the other day, wanted to know what roads we had done. I told him.
Remind me, is this white construction? No, or,
Wabash.
Wabash Valley, I mean, Wabash Valley.
You said last meeting they're in Rosedale now,
Yeah,
right?
they ground up a road in Rosedale, so they're probably getting ready to start down there. I don't know if it'll be too long now.
Okay. Maybe it'll warm up.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
And our brush cutter, we're in the process of switching them now. Getting a new excavator from John Deere, so it's down there, it has been for 2 weeks. Probably down in another couple of weeks or so.
What's the term on that one? 3 or 5?
3 years, I'm leaving this, unless I'm getting that mixed up with grader, but I don't think, I think with graders and it will be 3 years.
So was it that Caterpillar,
Yeah, the cat,
so it went back?
Yeah.
And it was a lease?
they, yeah, they at least, but they purchased it, that way we didn't lose our equity in it.
Oh, John Deere purchased
Yeah.
it then? Well, good. Well, that's good. Good deal. This down the west side and,
West side.
46, or, well, they have a place in 46.
Margaret Avenue.
Margaret. Well, that's good, and so we hope they'll have it back, and then you'll be starting to work on the brush again.
Yeah. Now, we got a little more to do on Henley Road, and plan to go to Narrows Road next.
Good. Good.
That's all I have.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thanks,
Randy.
Take care.
Good morning.
Are there others down there that are waiting to say something, or?
I don't see anybody down there at this moment.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I think we can drop down to that, so Katie doesn't have to stay very
I
long.
don't care.
We'll just do that, we'll just drop down to the abatements.
Well, I can step back if somebody
No,
else.
no, that's fine, that's fine. I told you 9:20, so we'll just go to the abatements.
Quick question, have you done the transfers yet?
No.
No,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't know if you had any questions for me on that or not.
Why don't we talk about the abatements, and then,
If you would take one, Greg, and pass them on around, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
you guys turn over on those tables, though.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, more accountability. Sorry. There you go. Got it. That's yours. I got it. Another. Yeah.
You need more paper.
There you go.
Okay,
Okay,
All right. Talk about Parke County veneer here first, right?
yes.
Okay.
As far as the amount of the abatement they took, it is correct. They placed things in service at different years. So they have one at 57% and then they have one at 43. I have done all the math. If you grant the abatement, the amount on the 104, which is all I can share with you, the front page, I can't share with you their whole return because that's confidential. But the amount of 138, 150 is correct if you so grant it. The next set of paperwork you'll see is the CF1BP. And if you look back to the one that the SB1PP, which would be the next set you see, when they first filed, they said that they would add 7 people and $230,000 in salaries. You flip back to the CF1, you'll now see that they only have 3 employees at $72,128. So, of course, all that's your decision, just pointing out what I've noticed in my going through the paperwork. So, That's there for your consideration.
The dollar amount stays exactly the same as employees get. Is that what they want us to do?
Yeah, they want you to grant it.
No, no, no,
No.
no, no, that's, what would be, they don't even have the SB one site filled out. Katie, is that in our stuff you just passed out, their SB one when they initially filed for it?
Yes, it is. It's after your CF one.
Okay, so let me give you that number. That's all right. They even have it on here. No, they never.
They
Sorry,
never-
Yes, 7,230,000.
Thousand, yes.
That number at the bottom is what they projected. So, the bottom of that table, the current number and the number retained, I don't know why they kind of both fill in, but the current number is 3. It's 72, so, okay.
What was, and it's probably on here and on this paperwork, it's easier for me just to ask you, how many year abatement did they actually receive originally?
We granted them a 7-year.
A 7-year, and what, remind me what year it is?
They've got one piece of equipment, one is at the 5th year and one is at the 4th year. Because they put them into service at different times and we have to go by when they were placed in service, so. They're getting one at 57% abatement and one at the 43% abatement.
Have they shared with you why they not done what they said?
No, this is the first time they've actually filed on time, and I think the only reason, if you notice, on your 104, which is what I could share with you, it was done by Integrity Tax this year. They didn't do it themselves. So I think that's why it was in on time this year. Previously, the council has denied their abatement because they haven't filed anything on time. No, they didn't share anything. They just sent the necessary forms, and that was it.
They're aware of it, they've got problems, don't they?
Yeah, they have a lot of problems over there.
So, it's up to the council then to decide whether or not you wish to grant them an abatement. Well, last year we denied it, is that correct?
That is correct.
Because the paperwork was not submitted on time or never submitted.
It was submitted considerably late. Now, I will say, I'm getting off the Parke County veneer for a minute because I just want to bring something to the council's attention, that Bailey or Superior Forest Products, the state has given an extension to June 15th. Kelly Stickney did reach out to me yesterday, and she was going to try to get it in by tomorrow, which is Friday the 15th of May, which when they were originally due, but 95% of they're in New York, 95% of their office is not working. So she was waiting on some more information from the guy she needed to get the information from. I told her, I said, you have till the 15th. However, my date to roll to the auditor has not changed, so the earlier you could get it into me, I would greatly appreciate it.
Sure.
And she said she should have it in by the end of the month, which should, so I'll bring you hers at the next council meeting.
Okay, that'll be fine. So the decision for the council is as to whether or not, if you believe that Parke County Veer is not substantially complied with the abatement, either yes or no, whether you wish to continue with the abatement or you wish to deny it based on their promises.
My position
they will need to be mailed a copy of that. I will
Yeah.
also mail them a 113, telling them they did not receive it from my
Because
office.
they're entitled to a hearing, I believe.
Yes, they are.
And the timing works out, because the next council meeting would be the 11th of June.
Be perfect.
Plays out. See. Okay, tell you what, I'll just do that after the, we just do that after the meeting. That way
Those
I'll
meetings
get it sent out pretty quick.
Okay, well, we'll move on then we have one for, Big Inch.
Big Inch.
If you wanna,
I think
Discuss
Laura's got
that.
like the CF1 for them and the SB. I don't get those because real estate abatements go through the auditor. So she'll have those documents for you. However, I did do the math for you on their abatement. Their total abatement, if you so grant it, would be $697,840. If you flip over on the back side of this page, what I did, just so the mezzanine was already in the building, they added on to this building. They added on, it used to be 200 by 98. They made it 300 by 98. So that's where your 9800 comes in to play. So what I did was taking the $1,205,600 for that building, and I divided it out by the square foot. Comes out to $41 per square foot. I took it times the 9800, which comes out to $401,800. The very last page, so you don't have to go through everything else. It's highlighted on the very back side of the very last page. That's their new, it's actually 10,600 square feet. They put 10,000 on there, but that's their new paint building they put in, and it comes out at $470,500. So by the time you add those two together, you get the $872,300.
You're really close, if not right on, right?
Yeah. So, take the $872,300, take it times the .80 for the 80%, and that's where you get your $697,840.
This one's a 10-year.
Yes, it is.
Right, and we're
Correct.
only in then year 3 of it.
That's correct.
80%. They, just for, I guess, the record, they, estimated 18 employees. At the time, they had 18, sorry, they retained all those, added 10. With what they said they would do, they actually have 36, of which 18 were added. They doubled the employee workforce. Salaries went up from 1.372 million to 2.318 million. So they certainly have been employing citizens over there.
anybody wanna make any other comments? If you now find that they're in compliance, well, we should have a motion.
I move to find Big Inch in compliance with the abatement terms.
Motion been made and second to find the Big Inch in compliance, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have to sign one for them, I said we sign one for them too. That's my file. Did you wanna talk about the transfer just a minute?
Yes, just to let you know, I usually try, as you know, to hold my budget down, but with the COVID going on, I have mailed out a lot more things that I normally would not, because people aren't coming into the courthouse. I'm down to less than a half a roll of stamps, but I have extra money in my dues. Some of the dues they took down this year, where normally they go up, and that's what I had estimated for. So I was wanting to transfer $220, which would be 4 rolls of stamps from my dues to postage.
So moved.
That's fine. Motion made and seconded to approve the transfers, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Do you need me for anything else?
I have a packet for you, if they can pass that next.
Absolutely.
File that.
I would be happy to do that.
Thank you. Okay. All right, well, we'll go back up to the minutes or something else. No, back up to the minutes. Approval of the minutes from the
Facilities Fund and the Sheriff Training Donation Fund, we were wanting to host our own school resource officer certification training. It's a week long. Those amounts plus what the LCC had approved for a grant would equal what we were wanting to, or what we expected it would cost to put several reserve special deputies. There's some full-time officers that haven't been through that also, but that would basically get all of our people. Rockville Police would probably send some of their people. They'd have to cover their own costs for it, but host that locally just so we're not paying for hotel and food, stuff like that. But that was what we're wanting to use that for, and then I think 3,000 of the 7 for the LCC would be like drug overtime if we call officers out for search warrants or raids or whatever.
Okay, any other questions about the additionals?
Second.
Vote's been made and seconded to approve the additional appropriations. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay, we took care of the transfers, no jury pay, redevelopment.
Since we've last met, the RDC received a grant for regional sewer study, $5,000 match, isn't that right?
Correct.
$5,000 match from, it'll be RDC operations money, local match. That's a study for, it's a countywide situation, but the primary focuses are in some of these smaller towns. Here in State Park is included with that, maybe even Rankin Lake. And trying to look at the concept of a regional sewer district for these areas that are having some significant problems with wastewater management or the lack thereof. The other thing of note was we instituted a payment forgiveness program for 3 months for the revolving loan fund. And I know several, if not all, of the holders of those loans took advantage of that at this point. So we gave them 3 months break while this has all been going on here. That's all.
Okay, planning and zoning, did not meet, courthouse security did not meet. Okay, we'll move on to new business. We've covered several of those. We're down to, I think, encumbrances.
Yeah, Chris is not in here now, but there was a couple grants that I think actually Amy applied for last fall. They were sheriff's department upgrades, computer system upgrades, and so on for $87,150. We appropriated that last fall. In the transition, department heads there, the progress was a little bit slowed on it, but they have since been buying equipment that they needed or in replacing things that needed to be what this grant was for. But the appropriation didn't exist, so since that had been appropriated, the grant was accepted, approved, everything was there, we went ahead, I encourage that we Jeff was in talking about,